Hi, Morgan. Thanks so much for being here today to meet with me about Seymour. And we're going to talk about how to join in playing with other kids. So I appreciate you taking the time to look at the book with your kids, which was one of the reasons I thought of you as someone to invite to talk about Seymour, because you've got three girls who are in different
Mhm.
ages. So you have a lot of insight about how the books might be of value to you as a parent. And so thank you for being here to share that. I thought that maybe I could just go through a summary of the book because I've already done one video that's online about the messages in the book. I just did that on my own, but so I don't need to go through all of that, but just a quick summary. I thought I'd share my screen and then we can talk about different things that as we go through it, and then ultimately going to all of the extra resources that are available on the website too, that go along with the book that are helpful tools for adults and also experiential tools for kids to help them
Great.
know about social interactions with peers. So I'll share my screen, and here is the title of the book, Mindful Seymour Pauses and Joining in Play. So the main idea of the story is like, because I'm an occupational therapist working with children, I in social skills groups, I am always looking for ways to help them learn to join in or to invite somebody else to join what they're doing. This is a really, really hard skill for most of the kids I'm working with. And so this is like the play as they're playing is a whole nother book. But this is just like, how do you connect with somebody? So Seymour is new at this learning about how to connect with kids and how to think about space with other kids and other birds in this case. And so what we see is that he like sprays sand over everybody because he's not realizing what he's doing. He sits too close to the castle, makes the other bird worry that her castle is going to get knocked down, sort of just not paying attention to his surroundings, but he's really excited to be there and hanging out with other kids. And that's a scene that I often see in my social skills groups is the idea of I want to join in, but really not knowing how to do that. So the story is about using future vision goggles. If you do X, what will happen? If you do Y, what will happen? And that's kind of what the story shows. And so we're using the goggles from his sister that's trying to show him, like, oh, this is what other birds were thinking and how they were reacting when you came charging into the sandbox without really pausing for a second, being mindful about what's going on, taking it in, and thinking, how can I join in this? How can I invite somebody to do my idea? Or how could I join in other birds' ideas? And so it's showing like that's the reaction of other birds. And so his sister said, would you like to see what actually was going on? Because it felt to him like they were all just blocking him from playing without understanding why they were all so protective. And so she shows them that they actually were being nice with to him and trying to show him how to do it, but he was just moving so fast he didn't notice. And so she's giving him a chance to think about what he could do instead that would actually end up being something that other kids can connect with him about. So he's each one of those birds is given an example of, well, if the owl, for example, is saying, well, please don't take my rocks, but over there is a place where you can get some rocks and you can use those and put them in your own stone. But I like my rocks just the way they are. And they're all actually trying to teach him about how to share everything in the sandbox. And now he's realizing instead of having the perception that they're all blocking him, he's now realizing when things are slowed down, like, oh, they're actually communicating with him and trying to show him the ropes of being in the sandbox together. So here, they're they're actually trying to play together. The bird with the cute hairdo on top is saying, let's dig together. And the penguin's saying, let's make a big mountain of sand together. And the owl is saying, would you like to open a restaurant with me to sell our sand cakes? So that's extending the ideas of how they can play and showing Seymour that there are lots of ways to play together. Sometimes it's fun to play alone. It's also lots of ways to play together. And so his sister says, well, it is a hard thing to learn. I have a little badge that I wear to help me. And so would you like to borrow it? And it says, ask to join, invite to join, flip a coin. So who doesn't matter. Both are good choices. And then he learns that if he does that kind of thing, then it's really fun for him. And he gets to have all these mountain full of sand cookies for the bakery and all of that. And the teacher comes along and says, well, this is great how you guys are playing. It's time for lunch. He's having a little bit of a hard time stopping because he was having a good time, but he realizes he can still, again, think into the future a little bit about being able to come back to it and play again, and maybe even spending time over lunch with his friends talking about what they could do next. So the teacher's saying, wow, your brain just grew. And the illustrator, I thought, did a really cute job on drawing the picture of Seymour's brain growing. So that's basically the summary. So for anyone who hasn't actually had a chance to read the story, but Morgan, I did all the talking. Do you want to share anything about the story before we go on to the little activities?
Well, our daughter loved the name Seymour because she was spelling it out as Seemore. And she loved that he was actually seeing more as Seymour. So it was easy for her to remember and easier for her to reflect back to.
That's so
And
great. I love that.
yeah,
I
and I
love
feel
that.
like that is something that we can talk about and just reference Seymour and say, what would Seymour do right now? And having the ask to join, invite to join, and flip a coin. And just one, two, three, what are we going to do with Seymour? I think that's a great thing that will resonate with our family.
I love that. And the Seymour thing, I mean, that's what it's all about because the kids are not seeing everything that's going on around them. They're seeing, like at the beginning of the story when he's rushing into the sandbox, he's not seeing more, he's seeing less for sure.
Yeah.
And so that's what the story is about, is opening up his world, his vision, and saying, see more, Seymour. So I just think
and
that's
and also taking the pause to put the goggles on, I think is a good, remembering because the kids are acting so fast and saying, oh, let's put our goggles on and see what else is going on. And I think that those are great tools for us.
yeah, it's great. I think that's always what is helpful, is just take a pause, think about what you're doing, and then decide on a plan. And so the little badge, like you were saying, can serve as that tool to help kids remember, and it's hands-on. So it's really great. And it's actually, well, it is something we can move on into this. Here's a little one that parents can print out for them, teachers, therapists can print out and cut out. So as an occupational therapist, I'm always looking to build in fine motor activities into lessons. And so this is one that kids can have to take home with them. And when I give them to kids, they often come back and ask for another one. So I created one that's blank also. So whatever's going on, it can be pause and we can work together about what do you want it to say. And so I love that they think it's fun. They sometimes ask for an extra one for a sibling, but everybody can access this online on my website, a hop, skip, and a jump ahead.com, and be able to have fun with it at home. What I do is I take it and put it on so the kids can wear it. But that also, of course, if you're wearing something around the neck, requires some supervision by adults. But the kids really do think that it's fun to have that. And I laminate mine, and that's, for durability purposes. And I have a laminator, so it's easy for me to do that. Okay, so the next thing on the activities that are on the website for people to take advantage of is the bingo game. So this is, again, trying to teach kids ways that they can join in with somebody playing in a group, or they can invite somebody to join in. So we can make this a little bit bigger. And so these are some of the activities. This is like A1 or B12 or whatever it is on bingo, but these are pictures. And then the kids can talk about, well, if I have this screen, or not, sorry, screen, but this card, and the picture that gets drawn to see if we have a match is the ball one. So just as an example, so, okay, I got a ball on my bingo card. So I'm going to try to get 5 in a row, just like regular bingo. And so in order to be able to put that card on my bingo card, that picture on my bingo card, I need to be able to tell either how I might invite somebody to join in with me if I'm playing, how I might notice somebody's looking for a friend to play with, maybe, or I might talk about an idea of how I could join. So I could maybe think about observing first and then seeing like who might be a good person for me to ask if it's okay for me to join in, and what game are they playing, and can I pick up the rules so I can fit right in and understand and not play a different game than what everybody else is playing, or try to change the game. I see that if I want to enter the game, this is how it's being played. And if I like how it's being played, then it's a great idea for me to ask permission to join in. So that's how the bingo game goes. And so, of course, there's lots of different cards so that everyone has that variety. They can pick from what they want. Do you see playing this with your kids, Morgan?
Yeah, we actually tried it with my twins, and it was the thing I loved the most about it was how they came up with different ideas for the same picture. It was just funny, and they're very creative about and how they imagine themselves in that particular space. And I think the visuals are really helpful versus the words. The visuals allowed them to come up with their own stories about how they could participate, which was nice.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Our society is getting so visual. And so I think, and they're used to that. A lot of teachers do visual schedules with them, and a lot of parents do that at home too. So they are kind of used to that. And so, yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad to hear that that was a helpful thing for them, because on the next one, the next game, it's partly visual, partly verbal. So this game is a game where, again, I want kids to be doing just what you said, Morgan, like visualizing themselves in that space, imagining what they could do. Because with our brains, if we can picture it first, it's sort of like already a practice time. So talking it out, imagining it happening in real life does prepare the brain for that moment when it is time to do one of these activities in the bingo game or in this game. And it's a real short game. Kids don't need a really long game to play this. And it's a game that they can play differently every time, because if the idea is you get to move forward, and if you land on a picture that says has you can either tell what you would do or to invite somebody to join you. So in this picture, the boy is standing by. He's probably trying to figure out if there's a swing available to him, and whether it might be okay with her if she has a swinging partner, and she could invite him, or he could ask, could I join? So that's a picture where, again, sort of like what you said, different people are going to pick up on something different about the picture and explain how they would handle that situation. Because we all, as adults too, can relate to the idea of we just want to be invited. And so
Yeah.
it feels so great to be invited. So if we can learn to reach out to someone and notice, oh, it looks like maybe he would like to join, it takes so much of the anxiety out of a social situation if there's somebody who just invites us in, because I think it's easier to invite someone in than it is to ask to join in. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
the other thing that we did with this game was we laminated it and then we wrote down different names of kids in their classes. And then the girls would name different characters on the game. So it made it even more real life for them, which was fun. And they imagined themselves at the lunch table and, how to invite somebody to join you, or if there was a tricky situation with a kid, like it was just a nice way to incorporate that into their lives.
That's such a creative idea. I love that idea of making it really, really down to earth real. So it makes it even more likely that it will happen because they've played it out in their minds and in the game with real people that they will be able to interact with at school in the way that they've practiced here. I love that idea. And certainly parents could make this game different for different situations. So they could make it with the child. So what situation would be fun to add for our board game? And it could be with real people, real situations. They could draw the pictures of their playground, all kinds of things. So that leads me to lots of ideas. So that's fun. So this is just an opportunity. Again, all of these are just meant to be opportunities to think of ways, just have it on your mind. How can I join? How can I invite somebody to join? So this is just a way that you can draw something, because that's often a way that kids do participate and learn is by drawing something. And this could be a three-dimensional picture. It could be just a drawing. It can be whatever the child's ability level is, but the idea is to portray something that helps you think about building something together, because the idea of building something together is, there's so many things that can go wrong with that. So somebody can say, no, I don't want to use that truck, or no, I don't want to build the mountain there. I want to build it over there. Or I don't want to put water in and add water to the sandbox. And then somebody else does want to add water to the sandbox. And there's so many ways that can be collaborative, like, oh, you were digging a hole, I dug a hole, our holes are coming together, let's make a river out of it. So it has the potential to do what we are hoping will happen, whether it's collaborative, but it also has the potential to be difficult for an idea to work that both people agree on. So this is an opportunity also to add, like, tell a story about it. How did you invite somebody to join in with you? Were you already in the middle of it and you said, hey, would you come help me with this? Just a way, and you could play it out with stuffed animals first and then draw what you did, anything like that. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Morgan?
No, I just think it's a perfect example of adding on. So like with our girls, like they were collaborating on how to do this together. It's like they were like, one person drew one thing and then they're like, and then we can do this. And it was like kind of a tiered up where they just got excited about the idea of doing new things together.
Oh, great. And so the idea of your idea adds to my idea, makes it more fun. That's the whole point of playing with other kids, is to share
Right.
ideas and to have a plan that you want to do together. And we don't have, with one brain, we have our ideas, but with two brains or more, we have lots of ideas. And so if we're flexible and can take in other people's ideas and see that as an enhancement to play rather than obstruction to a plan that you have in your head that you want to see carried out a specific way, then that's way more rewarding generally for kids, because they think that it's fun. But when it's all by yourself in one way, even if somebody else wants to join, then it's one way and there's not the same learning opportunity or social interactions.
Yeah,
So,
I think doing it on paper first makes a lot of sense before real life.
yeah, yeah. And this is just a dot to dot, just another opportunity to keep in front of the kids, like be thinking about this. This is another fun activity to be thinking, and it's an opportunity to have a conversation starter. So lots of times kids will talk as they're doing an activity, but this might be complicated for some kids because the numbers are small and the numbers can be a little high, the counting up to, but the dot to dots are very engaging for kids, and they're willing to do the hard work to hunt for the number, and there's all kinds of visuals that you can do to support. Okay, after 10 comes 11. So anyway, it's just an idea, like this is what the badge looks like. And to keep in mind, like you remember to play, basically invite somebody or ask to join. It's usually what works the best and easy to kind of remember. And then this is, again, having the child imagine what it would be like. So these are like Seymour's goggles. What would it look like in the future? Kind of like what you were saying, like what we were talking about earlier with the game, the board game. Like, can you imagine doing this activity at school? What would it look like? How would it look? And how would you like it to turn out? And what is required for you to do that? So can you kind of run through the scenario using a fun tool like this of what do you see? So sometimes one of the things I've been doing more of lately with kids is helping them know how to think through something. So this would be a perfect example. So put on your future vision goggles. Okay, now what do you see? So it might be something that you've actually been struggling with, a child is struggling with at school. Maybe, I don't know how, just make it, for example, I don't know how to join in. But the other kids are playing a sandbox game that I would like to play too, but I don't know how. And so you can take the child through step by step. What could you do? What words would you use? What could you be thinking that would help you know what to do? So it's planting the seeds and walking the child through really step by step. And what do you think next? Oh, I think that I can say, how could I, is there a way I could help you? Or if someone said, no, I don't like that idea, what could you think next? Instead of walking away, or instead of saying it has to be my way, because that's what I usually see with kids, that they don't want to play anymore if it's not going the way they like. But it doesn't have to be an all or nothing response. It can be, how could you think through this flexibly so you could stay engaged and play with the kids and play the game that you want to play? And can you think, do you know the words to say? Do you know the thoughts to have? Did you do anything like with your girls along the lines of with this?
Yeah, they really liked the goggles, and they liked imagining, like they kind of did it in a different way where they imagined, like once they put the goggles on, they were a different person, which
Oh,
was kind of fun because they were like, imagine, so like if I put these goggles on now, I'm the kid who's not being asked to play, and how does that feel? And if now I'm the kid who is playing, but I don't want them to ruin my sandcastle. And so it was just, again, like they took their imagination to the next level of how they could incorporate and kind of change their vision of what was going to happen. And then we talked about, like, how could you imagine doing this in the future? Like, let's think of a scenario that didn't go well at school, and then put your goggles on and redo it. And so that was a fun game too that we played with them.
I love that. You're so creative with your girls. I really like that idea. It's so great to just, again, it's that preparation for that moment when it's real life. So playing it through, that's great. So that is similar here, where they could actually draw maybe the outcome they want to see. And so maybe they have done what you just described, Morgan, and then now sort of to memorialize it, they can draw it on their goggles. Like, this is the plan this is the outcome I would like to have tomorrow when I go to the sandbox. And this is, I know the story of how to get there. And then this is what my goal is, my vision for tomorrow is. And I have tools for being able to be successful for doing that. So that's just like a blank slate to be able to draw that. Did they do that too, Morgan?
Yeah, they had a lot of fun with this, but then they went even further. They're like, and now I'm on Mars.
Oh.
The future vision. It was funny. Yeah, no, we tried to keep it in the present, but it was fun to see where their imagination went and then how they could use it to say, like, how do I get there? So that was nice.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. They just need the tools. They need to know the how, the process for it. And so this is sharing some ideas with the adults working with the children for ways we can help them learn about sharing. So sometimes I love it when I see kids saying, would you like a shovel too? And again, it's thinking of someone, but it's thinking into the future a little bit, like you could be my friend. If I hand you a shovel, now we can do something together. So these are just ideas like that. Like when you take your child to the park or preparing them for something that's going to happen in school, these are ideas that you can practice with them so they're prepared for it in the moment. So and telling a friend they can have a turn when you're finished with a toy in case somebody asks for your toy and you aren't ready to share it yet. Those are words to say. So practicing, what do you say when you're not ready to share that toy? Or can you give them a different toy? Can you think of a new idea how they could still join with you, but maybe doing something a little bit different that doesn't require the toy that's important to you in the moment? And then there's a list of reasons why kids may not want to join in with friends. I kind of already gave one idea that it can be hard for them to have a picture in their head and be able to adapt to somebody else's idea that would make it different, even though there's the possibility that it could be actually more fun to share ideas and to elaborate on your own idea while still maybe being a little difficult to let go of your idea to consider a different idea. But that can be hard. Lots of times kids don't want to join. These are mostly things that I see in my social skills groups because the game is too complex. There's so many rules and so many games. And so the simpler the game is, the more likely the child will join in. The other thing that I see a lot of times is if there's a game that involves being it, kids don't like being it for the most part. And the main reason the kids that I'm working with don't want to be it is because it takes them a really long time to get someone. So they're not as fast of a runner maybe, or if they're trying to throw a ball, their skills with balls are not as high as other kids' skills who've practiced more. And so it's frustrating to them and not fun at all because they try and then they aren't successful. So then they say, well, I don't want to play. So I always add the rule in about you can be it for a maximum amount of time. And then I let the group decide how long that should be. That's an interesting experience too, because they have no idea. They might say 30 minutes, like no idea how long it really is. So it depends on the age level and the ability of the kids, whether I let them make that decision or not. But it's, I'm trying to give them as much power as possible. The other thing is games go fast and sometimes it's real and they change as they're going that are nonverbal. It's not like everybody stopped and said, okay, now we're going to have this new rule. It just flows into a change and everyone goes with it because it's just everyone gets it. But for most of the kids I'm working with, they have those experiences of it just changing a little bit, but not knowing what just happened. I thought we were doing this, and now the group just suddenly is doing something different that I wasn't expecting, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing now. So we do that all the time. Just our conversation, it starts with one topic and it morphs into another topic, and play does the same thing. And so sometimes it can be hard to go with those changes.
Yeah,
Lot-
that makes sense.
Lots of rules can make it hard for kids. Again, sort of like they don't want to play some games because they don't feel that confident or competent to do it. They are hesitant to ask. They don't want to use words. That's one of the things that a lot of kids I work with, the last thing we want to do is actually use words to let someone know what they're thinking. So if you don't feel comfortable asking if you can join, then, and other kids don't think about inviting you to join, then you don't get to play. So practicing those skills in isolation, practicing them in the ways that we just did with the board games, with the goggles, like, what would you say? How could you think about this? If someone says no, if someone says yes, what do you do in those situations? So it's running through those situations to get the outcome that you're looking for. How do you do that? Another limitation I see with a lot of kids is they only want to play a certain 2 or 3 games. And if it's outside of the familiarity of those games, or the feeling that I know how to do this, I know how to follow the rules, it's not too complicated. But a lot of times there are so many other kinds of games that kids just say, no, I don't want to do it. And it's usually because they're not feeling comfortable for one of these reasons. So they're limited in what they are interested in and what they want to do. And another big thing is actually being afraid they might lose the game. So I have another book about that. Keto learns about winning and losing, because it is a big thing. So many kids get really stuck with that. Have you had that experience with your kids?
Yeah, they have a hard time, especially if they think that the person didn't win honorably.
Mm. Yeah,
That's a big
yeah.
one for them.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes they might misunderstand what happened too, that maybe they really did win honorably, but they missed something,
Hmm.
understood something, misperceived something. And it's more of those unwritten things that they don't
Yeah,
make.
the unwritten rules
Yeah,
that change all the time.
tricky. And then along the games can take too long, like a Monopoly game, for example, can take forever to end, and they can lose interest. Their attention can be short. And a lot of times kids don't want to play a game just because it's too loud. And then I think we've covered most of the other things. A lot of times they've had experiences that didn't go well, and so they think the next experience is going to be the same. But if they're supported, and if there's ways that the games can be adapted so it's fun for everyone, that can make it make it fun. And that's one of the things that is in that book about keto, learning to win and learning about winning and losing, is like games can be changed to be fun for everyone. And your kids generally okay with that. They don't really mind doing that. They can be flexible, most kids. And then a lot of times, this is another big thing that I see a lot, is kids don't know how to self-advocate. So somebody does something in a game that they don't understand, or they think is not fair, or they didn't win honorably, or whatever it is, and they don't know what to do in that situation. They don't know how to say, but wait, you skipped my turn. Or they don't know, if they don't like a rule, how do I let someone know? Can we make it a shorter time, or anything like that? They don't have strategies for being able to speak up and say, that doesn't sound fun to me, but you know what? I have an idea of something that maybe, would you listen to that idea and see if you think it would be fun? Because usually kids are pretty flexible. They just want to play. What they're doing is less important than, let me just play. So they don't want to spend a lot of time working it out. They're just like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Let's go. And then this is just some tips for successful interactions when playing games. So these, again, come from my social skills groups, because if they just start playing, so many times they have not discussed the rules. And then somebody doesn't like something, feels it's not fair, and then they get mad and they get even, and then, or they leave the game, but they don't speak up and tell anybody because they don't know what to do. So they go off. Lots of times they'll hide because they don't know what to do. And sometimes they just need someone there to support them, to know, oh, that didn't feel fair to you. Let's figure out. And then you bring the group of kids around to say, how can we do this in a different way so it's fun for everybody? Everybody wants to play, but it can be hard to make sure everyone feels that they're part of the group and can be successful. Were there any here that you see with kids?
Yeah, the one that we talk about a lot is getting an adult to help
Yeah.
with disagreements, because our kids were so nervous that they would get into trouble or their friends would get into trouble if you brought the yard duty or a teacher over.
Mm.
And so we had to work for a while to share with them, no one's going to get in trouble. They're just going to help talk through the situation with you. And like, we all just take deep breaths and then figure it out, but no one will get in trouble if you bring an adult in. So that was one of the big ones that we've been working on.
Great, great, yeah. And one of the big ones that I see is stop means stop, because kids
Mhm.
hear it, but they don't do it because they're having a fun time. So it's hard for them to stop. That's a really big one. And then kids don't like it. That's one of the things kids really don't like, is when they ask someone to stop and they don't stop. And it's really, really hard on both sides to be in that situation. So there's more here to just think about how to solve problems. So it can just be like a refrigerator item that can be used for all kinds of situations, not just games, but all kinds of relationship things between siblings, for example. And so this is a list of things that can make it easier for you to join in with another friend. You can invite them. You can take the first step by joining in. If you don't like a game, you can be a referee. Most of these we've talked about. One of my books, Mission Control, A Big Feelings Adventure, talks about how to do hard things. And most of the other things on that list we've talked about, but are also obvious if you read them another time. And then these are some of the more popular games that I see with kids that usually are winners. Kids are willing to play almost all of these games, and they can be modified for different ages, for different skill levels. And like Candyland, for example, I modify it lots of times for the younger kids by just taking out the picture cards and using only the double colors. So the game goes quickly. Nobody's going back to the beginning. Nobody's getting frustrated. It's more like an introductory game that can be an interaction between two kids and fun, because a lot of times when they're younger, they don't really care who wins or loses anyway, but they've just had the experience of being successful playing a board game. And so all of them, obviously Monopoly, as I said earlier, is a more complex game than Candyland. So being able to match what is just right for the child. Balloons are always a winner. Sidewalk chalk is always a winner. I have jewels that I put out with glue sticks and markers on a piece of paper that can keep kids busy forever. And all ages seem to like to do that. Parachutes are always a winner. Magnet tiles are usually great, but again, sometimes it can be wonderful collaboration, and other times it can be an opportunity to learn, oh, what do I do when things are different than what I expected? Are there games here that your girls like, Morgan?
My gosh, I think all of them. Right now we're on the Uno kick, which has been super fun.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all kids seem to know that game, which is so great.
Yeah.
And now with the warmer weather, water play, it's always a winner too. And so many ways to do that are fun for kids. And again, a lot of these games are games that kids are usually enjoying and having fun. And as long as a child is, some of the games can be used as practice for losing and winning. And some of the games are not intended to be that way and are just fun. So depending on what you're going for with your practicing, then you could pick what makes the most sense. And this is a maze. It tells the story of Seymour and what he did to go through the story. So it's just another opportunity to review what the events of the story were and how Seymour ended up in the end with an outcome that he liked. And I think that's all the activities. So did you have more you wanted to share, Morgan?
No, I think this was wonderful to review the book again.
You know, you mentioned once about language and how important that was. Could you share a little bit more about that?
About the Seymour?
Well, just having common language so that
Oh, right.
your
Yeah,
school
so
goes through that.
we have shared this book and some of the games with Blake's friends and like or with our daughter's close friends and with babysitters and with their teachers. And I think the more that they hear the same language, especially their friends are hearing the same language, and they can refer back to Seymour and they can refer back to the goggles and the badge, we just find it just makes the collective work better together. And it's also super fun. And so like now we'll just bring out the name Seymour. Like, what would Seymour do? What's going to happen? What's going to happen if we go down this path? And it just snaps them back really quickly. And we've really found that to be helpful.
That's great. Great. I love that. Yeah. And a lot of times people ask me, what language do you use in therapy so that we can use it at home or school? So same
Mhm.
idea. And it does
Yeah.
matter because now kids understand, oh, in all areas of my day, this is language that is used. And I understand in different circumstances, the same message applies, the same concept applies. Yeah. So
Yeah, and I think having the adults also have the same language, so then I get going back to the rules being the same. So rules of the structure of what's going on makes more sense to them. So they're not like, well, at home we do this one thing and at school we do another thing.
yeah.
But as long as it's a collaborative effort, I think it works really well.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So I just wanted to remind the viewers that if you didn't see the first part of this video, that's where I just talk about the highlights of the book and the messages that are important when you are reading the book to your child that you can talk about as a conversation to learn more what's happening at your school. So many times kids are not telling their parents things that are going on at school because they don't know it matters. And then when the parents find out, they're like, oh, I didn't know. Let me help you with that. So the child may be a struggle for a while, but then when it becomes to light that they've been struggling, then the parents are kind of going back and trying to say, oh, well, let's figure out how to solve that problem so it goes easier for you. But if there's a conversation, if a book like this as a conversation starter, has this ever happened to you? Have you ever felt like this? It can be an easier way to find out more of what's going on because kids don't necessarily know just to report something.
Right. And then once they get into the play of it too, then a lot comes out.
True, because play is their language. So you learn a lot from that. Yeah, as you just described. So that's great. Thank you so much for being here to help out. You have so many great ideas and you're such a great mom with your girls and how you support them. And I really appreciate you sharing that with other people who are going to be watching the video.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Okay.